Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Ron from International Trade Council, and thank you for attending today's educational session. Before we start, I would like to make a quick audio check. If you guys can hear me, please type in yes in the chat box. Thank you, perfect. And you can see the PowerPoint presentation and you can see our speaker, right? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so for this session, I'm going to we're going to do a quick housekeeping first. So this is the chat box that you are typing in right now. So if you have any feedback or if you would like to interact with other participants, you can use this chat box. Now below that there is a Q&A tab. We can use that portion if you have any questions. So our speaker will be asking questions later, and you can feel free to type in your questions here. Okay. So I think everyone is good. We can start. Again, my name is Ron Nolasco from International Trade Council, and thank you for attending today's educational session. The title for today's session is Nimble Decision Making with the AI Model. Our speaker is Edmund Melina, is the president and co-founder of Orcango, a recognized expert in the nimble change leadership and culture change. With over 30 years of experience, he has led strategic transformation, advised clients globally, and is a dynamic speaker on change, agility, and innovation. Edmund also lectures of the Groot School of Business, and his insights are shared through his Nimble vlog. Outside work, he enjoys food, cooking, and lives in Toronto with his family. In this dynamic presentation, Edmund will lead you through a three-step journey, identifying the telltale signs of sluggish decision making, exploring why DAI is the ideal model for agility and how it operates, embracing the right mindset and behaviors depending on whether you play the role of D, A, or I in a given decision. Edmund brings his trademark passion, humor, and engaging style of this session, ensuring an insightful and interactive experience. Just few reminders: you will be receiving a free online or a free upcoming online certificate workshop from the International Trade Council, and all attendees will receive a complimentary certificate of attendance. If you are not yet a member of International Trade Council, you will be given an opportunity to be a member free of charge, and you will receive a membership certificate within 7 days. So without any further ado, I'll give the floor to Mr. Edmund Molina.
Thank you very much, Ron, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. So yes, nimble decision making with the DAI model. Let's look at the roadmap for the next 60 minutes. So as Ron explained, we'll start by talking about what are the top 5 signs that decision making is sluggish in an organization. We'll start with that. And we'll have a little poll. This way you can tell us what kind of symptom, if any, you see in your own organizations. Then we'll explain why the AI is by far the best model for agile decision making. And we will spend a good chunk of time explaining how it works, the mechanic of it, the process of it. And then we get, as Ron said, into mindset and behavior to embrace, depending whether you are the D, that's the blue hat I'll be using during the session, the A, which is the camouflage hat, or the green hat for the I. I'll explain all that as we get going. But let's start with the top 5 symptoms of sluggish decision making in organizations. And the first one is escalation. So let's imagine that I work in a company, I'm a mid-level manager, and there is a decision to make. And that decision, I should be able to make it. It's at my level. But this is not what we do in my company. I'm too afraid of making a decision, and my boss doesn't like it when I make a decision. So what I do, I escalate the decision to the boss, basically. So why is it sluggish? Because everything is moving back up, and the boss become a bottleneck. Also, as a mid-level leader, I don't have opportunities to grow because all the decisions are going back up, and I'm not being empowered. If I'm not being empowered, I cannot grow as fast as a professional, basically. First symptom, escalation. Second symptom, swirl. Here, in this case, a decision maker, regardless of the level, is making a decision, and the decision is being implemented. But then, after a few days, or after a few weeks, or maybe a couple of months, we are all going back to the decision saying, okay, maybe we should change the decision. And yet, nothing has changed in the context, in the situation. There is no point why we should be talking about changing the decision. And yet, we do it. It's part of the culture. We are unsure and we go back. It's like if decisions were caught in a swirl in a river and they keep coming back with no reason. That's the second symptom of sluggish decision making. The next one, it's an interesting one. Wing clipping. So in this case, people are empowered. So let's say I'm this middle manager that I told you about and I have a decision to make. I can make it. I'm being empowered. However, my boss is giving me so much guidelines and is micromanaging everything that is happening around this decision. In fact, what's happening is that my wings are being clipped. I cannot fly by my own wings. This is not empowerment. It is fake empowerment. So as a result, things are moving at the pace it should be because we have all this micromanagement that is happening from the upper levels in the organization. That was the third symptom, wing clipping. The next one is interesting, throwing under the bus. So here, I'm being empowered. I'm this middle level manager, let's say, and my boss is empowering me to make the decision. I make the decision, we implement it, but then the boss of my boss is not happy about the decision and he's starting to challenge the decision. And here my boss, when the boss of my boss is challenging the decision, my boss is moving away, letting Edmund defend himself on his own without any support. In other words, I've just been thrown under the bus. Next time my boss is empowering me to make a decision, I'm going to say, no, thank you. I learned my lesson. I don't want to end up under the bus. Make the decision. And this is when this throwing under the bus is actually feeding the other symptom, which is escalation. Last symptom, which we see in a lot of organizations, it's very classic, it's consensus. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of benefits in consensus. It's easier to implement a decision when there is a strong consensus. The problem from an agility standpoint is twofold. First, if you are trying to get everybody on board with a decision before implementing it, it will take forever. So it's not agile, it's not fast-paced. The second problem is that typically when you try to please everybody, you end up with a decision that is not a good decision. Because you're trying to make so many compromises to make everybody on board that it's not the best decision for the company. So not only it's not agile, but you don't end up with good decisions. So these are, let me clean up my mess here, the top 5 symptoms of sluggish decision-making in organizations, the way we see them working with our clients. So this is a summary of what I just explained. And we are going to do a quick poll. Ron is going to run a quick poll for us. It's showing up on the screen here. Think about what is at play at your organization. And you can choose more than one answer. But click on the kind of symptoms you see in your respective organizations. And let's see what we have. So Ron, once you have the result, if you can share them with us, this way we can see what is happening in the various organizations we are coming from.
Should I close the poll now?
Yeah, I think it's a good time. Yes, go ahead, Ron. Thank you very much. Let's see what we have. Oh, we have a little bit of everything. A fair amount of escalation. Yes, typical. Some swirl. Interesting. A little bit less wing clipping, not too much throwing under the bus, and we have a fair amount of consensus. So this is good because it's telling me that everyone here in the audience, we are used to sluggish decision making. So let's now get to the next module. Oh, let me just organize myself here. Yes. So we covered the first piece, the top 5 symptoms of sluggish decision making. Let's now look at why is the AI the best model for agile decision making? And if it is, how does it work? What is the mechanic of it? So you can go to Google, don't do it now, but I've done, since last time I've done it, it was a few weeks ago. I went to Google and I typed decision making frameworks, enter. And I got a huge amount of pages in terms of results, over 700 million. So that's a lot. And if you look at these pages, if you go at the first 20 pages, what you'll get is 3 models that are referenced way more than others. Why? Because they are the granddaddies, the grandparents of decision-making framework. So the first one, nobody really knows how he was created. He was from the 50s, and it's called the RACI model. Responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And in fact, this is not per se a decision-making framework. It's an execution of a decision framework, but it's still popping up as one of the top search results in the Google search. The next one was invented in the 80s by Intuit, the American accounting software company. It's called the DICE model. And the DICE model is both for decision making, but then implementing the decision, the execution. Later on in the 2000s, early 2000s, Bain & Co., the big strategy consulting firm, popped up with this, in my view, rather confusing model. It's called Rapid. I like the name, Rapid, fast. But the way you use it is different. It's a different sequence, which is already confusing in my mind. And it's also both for decision making and execution. All these models, which are the most referenced by far because they are the granddaddy of decision making models, they all have the same problem. They are popular, but they are complicated. Complicated from 2 standpoints. First, there are a lot of letters here, and it can be confusing. But also, I mean, this one is not even about decision making, it's about execution. But also the other ones, they are trying to do too many things at the same time. Decision and execution. Decision and execution. And this creates some complication, confusion, and as a result, it's not conducive to agile decision making. If you keep looking on your Google search, you'll have a lot of other models that are referenced. A plethora of them. You can see some of them here that are going to show up with different colors. Why different colors? Because these models are actually grandchildren of one of the granddaddy models. So, for example, the Ratio model is a different ways to use Rapid. RASIC, also known as RASCI, is a different way to use the DACI. So these are grandchildren of these big models, and they share the same problem: too many letters, trying to do too many things at the same time, decision making and execution. And as a result, they are not the best for day-to-day decision making. They might be the best sometimes for a big strategic decision, but for day-to-day decision making, which is the thousands of decisions that are being made every year in a business, not good at all. If you keep going on your search and go very deep, last time I did that, I had to go to page 19 on my Google search, and I had to dig because it was not in the tag, in the headline of the search result. I had to click on something, read an article or web page or whatever, and then, oh, they are talking about DAI, also known as DCI. I will explain to you the difference on the next slide. So this is a model that is in the public domain. I'm not too sure who invented it. It's a grandchildren of the second model we looked at in the previous slide. But this one is super effective for day-to-day agile decision-making in organizations. Why? 3 reasons. First one, it's easy to remember. Just 3 letters. That's easier to remember than 4, 5, or even 6 in some cases. So just 3 roles. If I go back to my hats, just 3 hats, 3 roles that we can take, and that's very easy to remember. First benefit. Second benefit, because there is very few roles, just 3, and they are very distinct, there is no gray zone when an overlap. Okay, hold on. Am I the green hat or am I the camouflage hat on this one? I'm not sure. If I'm not sure, I'm paralyzed. We're not moving at pace. Therefore, it's not agile. So here it's very simple, very different roles. Therefore, it's clear and pragmatic. there is no confusion. And last one, this is a very important one. The model is not trying to boil the ocean. You've seen on the previous slides, they were trying to do decision making and execution. Here, the DAI is saying, you know what? There is a time to decide and a time to execute, to implement. With a little bridge, I'll show you the little bridge when I explain the model, how it works, at least the way we make it work with our clients at Orchango. And this is the third reason why DAI, also known as DCI, is perfect for day-to-day modern decision makings in organizations. So that is the reason why, these three reasons. So let's look at how it works now. So first, let's clarify what are these three letters. The D. The D stands for, that's my blue hat here, the D stands for decision maker. One person, one single individual that is accountable for making a specific decision and the impact on the business. One person. So this can be pretty nerve-wracking. If I have the blue hat, if I'm the D, I am accountable, I'm the only one. What's going on here? I have too much pressure. Hold on, Edmund. You are friends here. The second role, that's the camouflage hat that I'm putting on my head right now on the camera, is advice givers. And advice givers, sorry, it's also consulted in the DCI version of it. So either A for advice giver or C for consulted. Doesn't matter, it's the same thing. So this is a bunch of subject matter experts, people that have more insights, expertise, perspective on specific aspects than the decision maker, that the decision maker is reaching out to and bringing to the table to help him or her decide. So the idea is that the advice givers, they are bringing their expertise and experience to the table. They are helping the decision maker by highlighting issues, raising alternatives, discussing pros and cons, basically supporting the decision maker. And the last one, let me clear my mess here, it otherwise it's hard to see. The last one is inform stakeholders, and this is EI, both in the DAI version as well as the DCI version. The only one that changes is the middle letter. Inform stakeholders are people that either need to know about the decision, they need to be made aware, and or they need to support the execution of it. And these folks, contrary to a lot of other approaches that are sluggish, they are informed after the fact, once the decision has been made. However, the advice giver and even the decision maker might reach out to some of them to get input to feed into the decision-making process. So it's not like they are not connected to the process, they are not at the table when the D and the A's are making the decision. So this is first the definition of DAI, also known as DCI. For the rest of the session, I'm going to focus on DAI because that's the acronym that is more people are more familiar with and that we use most often at Orchango. So now that we understood what are the D, the A, or the I, in other words, what is the difference between the three hats I've been playing with from the beginning of the session here, let's go deeper and look at the mechanics of it. So this is the way at Orchango we help clients use the AI. This is a model we recommend. There's 5 steps that works very well to use the AI in the real world. The first step is to decide who is going to be the D. So there is a decision to be made. And the first question we need to ask ourselves, who has the D on this? And again, this is when a boss at the top of the pyramid has to make sure that he or she is not keeping all the decision. Otherwise, we are back to escalation mode. So first question, who has the D? Let's say Edmund, that middle manager has the D on this one. Let's empower Edmund. Let's give him the blue hat. Edmund has the D now on this decision. I'm being empowered. First step done. Now we can go to the second step. And the third step, which is, you'll see as I disclose them, we call that a decision hacker sprint. You're probably familiar with the concept of hackathon. You have a problem, you get a bunch of people together, and over 24 hours, 2 days, whatever, you hack the problem. Here it's similar to that, except it's a smaller group, shorter time frame, and we call it a decision hacker sprint. So let's go deeper into that. The first thing, the D, so here it's me in that case, I have the blue hat, so I'm the D. Here, I need to think about who do I need help from in order to make my decision? Who are going to be my advisors? I have to be careful about who I ask So I need to think about the decision. What does that mean? What is it going to touch in terms of part of the company and all that? And then I bring experts, a small group, let's say five people or something like that. Can be a little bit less, can be a little bit more, but I'm not talking about 60 people. Otherwise, it's not like a sprint. Otherwise, it's not going to be nimble at all, agile. So I reach out to them once I have decided who I'm going to involve. And my job as a D is to give my advisors, the ones that are going to wear the camouflage hat here, I need to give them enough background information. So I need to make a decision on that. I need you to come to the table, do some research before, ask other people, reach out to other stakeholders, but come with your expertise, come with your insight to help me make that decision during the Hacka sprint. So by doing this step here, step number 2, I'm setting the stage for the A's, the folks with the camouflage hat, to do what they need to do to come to the table with what they need to help me make the decision and have the information they will need to add value to the discussion. So we do that, and maybe we give, let's say, a week to prepare, and then we gather. We gather, and it's typically a relatively short meeting, something like 90 minutes is a typical duration if the work has been done in terms of preparation, which is step number 2 here. So we get together, the D and the A's. Again, the last hat, they are not in the Hacka sprint. That's the informed stakeholders. We hack the decision, and I explained to you on the next slide. We are going to zoom in, and we have a tool here, a process that works very well that I'm going to give to you here in the next slide. So let's look at it now. So now we are the D, me, with my advisors, the camouflage hat folks. We're in the room, and we are going to hack this decision, let's say in 90 minutes. So everybody has come prepared. We've done some research. We've done some speaking with some stakeholders. So now we are ready. It's my job as a D to lead the discussion, and I need to show assertiveness and discipline. And the discipline is provided by the 3 steps here with the mini steps. So let's go one by one. First, pros and cons. That's the balance here. First, we need to discuss the alternatives and their pros and cons. So I'm going to ask the A's, and we are going to go around the table, clearly and succinctly articulate how you see it. What alternative do you see for the decision to be made? And do an analysis, pros and cons. And because everybody is coming from a different perspective, we'll have a little bit of a debate. So somebody might see that as a con, but somebody might say, okay, hold on, there is some pro here, or whatever. So it's my job as a D to facilitate a good discussion, a good debate. Again, we are also solution-oriented. Me as a D, and my colleagues that I brought to the table as my advisors. Once we've done that, let me clear my mess. Then I want to play it back because I've been doing a lot of listening here as a D. I've been listening to all my SMEs experts here, my colleague, do some discussion on alternatives, what could be done about this decision, what are the pros and cons. So now I want to play it back. Why? 2 reasons. I want to make sure I understood what they said, synthesizing, obviously, but also I want them to feel that I understood them. This is important for the next steps in the process, you'll see. And then, so now we are in sync. And now I facilitate a discussion with EAs about risk mitigations. So some of the cons are related to risks. And risk, there are always a creative way to at least mitigate some of them. And this might bring one of the potential decision higher up in terms of the hierarchy of decision. So it might be the best decision because we have a way to lower the cons and have, as a result, a better balance. Once we've done that, this is pretty intense. This is a step that is pretty intense in terms of brain power. We are talking about it. We are thinking it through. I mean, this is where we need a little bit of a break. And me specifically as a D, I need a break because now the next step is to make a decision. So the first thing is to pause. We typically take a 5 minutes break because this helps me as a D to let it sink and take a little bit of distance. And then I come back to the room, virtual room or in person, doesn't matter. And the first thing I'm going to do is, so we've done that. I'm going to share openly what's going on in my brain during that break. Because the break was used in my brain to put all that and think about all that. And I'm trying to zoom in on what I see as the best decision. So what I do is that I'm explaining my thought process based again on the beautiful job that all the A's have done in the first step. And I'm explaining how the decision is designed to make sure we capture the pros and minimize as much as possible the risk and the cons. And once I've done sharing what went through my mindset, I'm saying, and based on that, this is the decision I've made. And basically, you share the decision with UAs, sorry. Before leaving the room, let me clear up my mess. Last piece, which is very important, and we learned that the hard way because some clients were not pushing the ball over the hill enough. So again, we are separating decision-making from execution with the AI. However, it's important to have a mini bridge. In other words, to push the ball high enough on the hill, the decision-making hill, that is going to be easy to get into execution mode. And for that, all of us, the D and the A, we discuss how and when the I should be informed, first piece. And then we discuss what are the mini next step in terms of informing the I's and starting to just get going into the process of execution of the decision. This is the mini bridge, just pushing the ball over the hill. This way we can get going with execution after. That is, sorry, let me clear the mess here. That is how we hack a decision. So we just went through this section here, which is zooming in on what happened during the 90 minutes, 2 hours that how do you call that? They are all working together in a decision like a sprint room. Next step, as we said, now it's time to inform the I's. So this is when we reach out to the I's. That's the last hat that I haven't used so far, the inform stakeholders. And what is very important is to highlight opportunities for co-creation. This is very, very important. I need to explain why. Okay, let me step back a little bit. Change management, key principle in change management. The reason why people resist change is because we don't like to lose control. Human beings, we love to have control. So think about it as, you know, the seesaw. If you look at my camera, the seesaw in little parquets that kids play. I used to love that when I was a kid. You go have one kid on one end or two kids and one or two kids on the other end, and you go back and forth. My kid loves that game also. So the seesaw. Think about the seesaw. On one end, you have control, and on the other end, you have anxiety. And pay attention to what I'm going to do on the camera here. If control is high, so control is on my left hand here, it's super high. Anxiety is low, no problem. But now there is a decision that has been made. I was not in the room as a D this time. Sorry, as the I this time, as informed stakeholder. I've lost control here. So it's natural because control went down. Look at my arms. Anxiety is going up. That's normal human nature, basically. So that is why it's important for the D and the A's, when they close the loop with the I's out there, the informed stakeholders, it's really important to look for opportunities for co-creation. And how you do that is by answering 3 questions. We call them control regaining questions. And that's questions that the I's should be asking you, and if they don't, you should be, as a D or the A's, you should be addressing them. The first one is that, okay, in the decision, what is non-negotiable and why? If I'm this way, I change that. I'm an informed stakeholders. Okay, man, you made the decision with the I's. What is it and what is non-negotiable? So I'm changing that here. As a D, I might say, okay, this is what we are going to do, and this is done. The decision is made, and this is why. But, and this is why it comes into the picture, there is a bunch of that is flexible. How we are going to implement it, we don't know yet. Let's work together on figuring it out. And there are some aspects of the decision that are going to be entirely your call. So let's say you are going to implement the decision from November to March in the company. But where we do it in which month, it's up to you. If you are too busy in December, we won't bother you in your division. We'll work on another division, and then we'll implement that decision later on in January, once you are past the peak on your end. So this is where you create a lot of opportunities for the informed stakeholders to say, now I have back some control. So if you look back at my camera, I had a feeling of losing control. Anxiety is starting to go up. As a result, I will resist. Now I can see that I'm getting back some control. I start to feel better. I'm okay with that decision. Let's keep moving now. So this was this step here that we just zoomed in, highlighting, reaching out to closing the loop with the informed stakeholders and finding ways for co-creation. And the last piece is, the last step is, okay, now let's get going. Let's execute. All together, as appropriate and as necessary, we implement the decision. So here we went from, there was a decision to be made, was the D, to the decision is now implemented. But we went through it in a nimble way without triggering any of the top five symptoms of sluggish decision making. So I'm going to pause here, and we are going to use the Q&A button here. That's the third button on the top right of your screen. What type of questions, clarification questions do you have for me at this stage before we talk about mindsets? I'll pause and I see what type of questions we have.
Sure. All right. So if you have any questions, as mentioned earlier, please type in your questions here in the Q&A tab, and our speaker will be able to answer your questions. So go ahead.
Or at least I will try.
No questions yet?
Okay. So I guess it was clear enough.
Yes.
If there is any question that pops up as we keep moving deeper, just drop them in the Q&A box. And if you see anything wrong, if you don't mind monitoring, just let me know if you see something, okay? And I'll pause and I'll try to see if I can address it, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Ron. Okay, so let's keep moving. Sorry, I have something happening in my screen here. Okay, I'm not on the wrong. Okay, that's it. So we just, so we've done that before. Now we just explain why DAI is the best model for agile decision making, and if so, how does it work? And I guided you through a step-by-step guide on how to make DAI work in your organization. At the back end of the session, when we talk about the recommended next step for you, I'll show you a way to go one step at a time to start to play with it in your organization, and we'll go a little bit deeper on that. But for now, let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a few questions on the Q&A tab, so if you would like to answer them first, or it depends on you.
Okay, so the first one is that, is it wise to have different Ds for different situations problem? Very, very good question. Thank you, Akan, for that. Let me go back to one slide here. Sorry, I need to go back here. Yes, I go back here. So you look at the decision that has to be made. You haven't made the decision yet as a company, but you need to decide, let's say, you need to decide when is it we are going to launch this product that we've been working on behind the scene. The first question is, okay, who has a D on this one? And I might say, Joe, the product development guru in our company, is going to decide that. Let's empower him. Let's give him the blue hat. Tomorrow, we might say, okay, we need to change our accounting software. It's not working. Who is going to have the D on that? Okay, on this one, let's give the D to our the leader of our IT division. So it depends. It's a question to ask yourself as an organization. Who is the most appropriate person in an organization to take the ownership, to take the lead in making that decision? And it will depend on each decision. So, is it wise to have different Ds for different situation problem? Yes, it is super wise. It is highly recommended. That is the way to go. Unless, of course, you are a startup and you are just one or two person, it's just the very beginning, then of course it's different. But once you start to have scale, yes, you will have different people wearing the blue hat based on the decision. How will you implement it in a startup, the DAR model? Again, it's the same. it's the same thing. So this second question, we're going to put it in the parking lot, because at the end of the session, I'm going to highlight how to start to get going with it, play with it. But the key is you will still use the same model here. So if it's a startup, if you don't have a lot of people, it's going to be faster. It's going to be easier to manage. If you are like a 100 people company or 10,000, then it's a different ballgame, obviously. But I'll address your second question later on. Okay, so last question. Sorry, I'm just reading the third question. Give me a little bit of time. Yeah, so there is some value in the RACI model. And if I go back a little bit up here, I think it was here. So the model that we are talking about is RACI. And I'm actually going to go back to this slide here. That's an important one. Let me just erase all my mess here. RACI, I mean, I have a background in, I used to be a CIO. Before that, I was an IT engineer. I have a background in project management. RACI is actually the best project management model to implement decisions. So it's not really a decision-making model per se. It's a decision has been made. How do we implement it? So for me, I agree with you, Scott. RACI is beautiful. It is super effective to implement the decision. But my recommendation is that use the AI on the front end to make the decisions. And this can be a bunch of decisions during the project. But when you get into implementation mode for these decisions, switch back to RACI. So in other words, RACI is a brother or sister of DAI. Use more DAI for decision making. It's more effective. And then once you go over the decision is made and you go into execution mode, you pass the hill, then you switch to RACI. I find that the more effective. And the last question, can the AI be used for short-term plan, or is it best suited for long-term plans? Yes, it can be used for any kind of decisions. The only exception is big strategic decisions. I'm talking about the decision we make as a company once every few years. Then it might be useful to use, for example, the model from Bain & Company. But otherwise, the AI can be used for small decision, medium decision, or large decision. We use it, and our clients have been using them for a lot of time. Last question, can there be a switch in hats? So somebody has a D, they start to reach out to A's, and they start to work. I've seen situations where there is a switch of hat. But this is not the A stealing the blue hat from the D. This is the D getting to the recognition that, okay, hold on. There was a big piece that we missed when we decided who should have the D. And I think you should have the D on this one. Are you okay with it? Yes, that makes sense. And we switch. So yes, it does happen sometimes. Okay, I suggest we keep moving. Let me move back up. Sorry, I need to catch up on the slide we're at. And sorry for all the mess that I have on my slide that I wrote on. I think we were here. That's where we were. And we were about to go to the last piece, which was mindset and behaviors to embrace, whether we have the blue hat, the D, the camouflage hat, the A, or the green hat, the I. Why is it important to stop and look at mindset and behaviors? If your company is currently not using the AI and you want to start playing with it, you're introducing a change to your organization. So let's look at it from a perspective of change leadership, change management. So there is this very classic and very important model in change management of the iceberg model. So change is about changing behaviors. If you start to use the AI to move away from sluggish decision making and to become more agile in your decision making, it's about changing behaviors. It's about moving the iceberg somewhere else, from an old set of behavior to a new set of behaviors. But behaviors, they are like the tip of the iceberg. They are what we see above the waterline. What's important to keep in mind is that there is something that is huge below the water, the top line of the water line. And it's called mindset. And the mindset, how we think, the mindset we adopt, this is what is driving our behaviors. So in change leadership, if you want to change behaviors, if you want to go from sluggish decision making to agile decision making, what you really have to start with is the bottom of the iceberg. Because to move the iceberg, you need to move it from the foundation of the iceberg, which is a mindset. So we are going to talk about mindsets, the key mindsets to adopt based on whether you have the D, the A, or the high hat. Then we'll talk about what behaviors are being driven by this mindset in agile fashion when you use the AI. And then there is another piece, which is feelings. If I adopt a different mindset, I do something differently as a result, I will feel a certain way. Hopefully it's a good feeling, and you'll see why the AI is generating a lot of good feeling when done properly. This is actually a beautiful feedback loop that is reinforcing the new spot that we have for the iceberg, which is agile decision making. And it's a virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious cycle. So that is why it's important to stop on talking about mindset and then talk about behaviors and feelings. So let me break it down by players. So let's start with the blue hat. Decision maker. So if I have the D on that decision, the big mindset that I need to bring to the table is I'm responsible. Yeah. We used to escalate. We used to do consensus kind of decision making. This is a different ball game. We are trying to do something different to be better than our competitors, move at pace with a pace of change in our industry. So we have decided to change the way. I've been empowered to be the D on that decision. I am responsible. That's a very important mindset to start with as a D. If I have the camouflage hat, then it's going to be a different mindset I need to bring to the table because I'm not the D on this one. I'm the A or one of the A's. And the mindset here, I'm a solution-oriented advisor to the D. What does that mean? I have my expertise. I have my vantage point. For example, I work in finance. I look at things from a finance standpoint. I'm going to come to the table as a finance expert on this decision. Then there is an operational colleague, Julie from operation. She's going to come. She's super good. She's an expert in the operation. She's going to look at it from the operation perspective. HR might be, marketing, whatever, sales. We have a few folks here on the table. Each of us, we are looking at it from our very specific vantage point, which is finance, marketing, sales, operation, whatever it is, technology. But it's important to go beyond that. I need to collaborate through the discussion with my colleagues from the other areas in order to do the best job we can to help the D make the best decision for the business. That means that I will need to force myself as an advisor, if I'm in finance, Joe in finance. I need to obviously share my perspective on finance, but when Julie from operation is talking about operational perspective, I need to think about it from her standpoint as well, and vice versa. And same thing with the other folks. This way we can all collaborate by providing the best advice we can all together as solution-oriented advisor to our colleague, Bill, that has the D on that decision. So I'm not only coming to the table as as just an SME, subject matter expert. I'm a solution-oriented SME that is going to work with the D and the other A's on balancing the risks, the pros and cons, and looking at alternatives and all that. Big mindset, quite a different mindset from the typical approach where I will just come as an SME, looking at it from my vantage point, finance, sales, operations. Now, what if I am informed stakeholders? So now I'm using the last hat, the green hat. Well, this is very tricky because I'm not involved, at least during the decision process. It's fine. And man, it's fine. You've had the D on the decision. You were the A on the decision. You've done an amazing job with your colleagues. Now it's a different one. Somebody else has a blue hat. Somebody else has a camouflage hat. That is fine, Edmund. Let it go. I trust my colleagues. I know the D has been reaching out to amazing A's. Some of them came to see me actually to get my input on some of stuff in preparation for the Aka sprint. I'm fine. I don't need to get involved at this stage. So these are very, very important mindsets to adopt based on which hat you wear. So if you want to play with the AI in your organization, talk about this mindset and start small, but play with it. And it's going to be quite hard initially to switch mindset based on the hat you have, but it's absolutely critical to make it work. Think about it as an investment in the company. Because if collectively we play with these mindsets based on the hat we have, we are going to multiply our ability to make good decisions at the right level in the business without losing time. And this is how we are going to beat our competitors. So think about it as this way, basically. It's an investment in the company. So let's dig deeper into that. I just talked about the bottom of the iceberg, the orange piece, which was the mindset. Let's now get into behaviors and feelings. Again, if I go back to the model here, let me clear up my mess. So we just covered that. Let's now get deeper into the other stuff. And this way you get a better feel of what it takes to be an effective player based on your hat, based on your role in the DAI model. So let me catch up here. Okay. So let's focus first on decision maker. So I'm responsible. That's the big mindset we talk about. But don't worry, Edmund. The A's will help you think through it. So what do I do as a result of this mindset? So I will take into consideration the advice from the A because it adds nuance and perspective. You know what? I'm so happy that Julie from operation is here because that's all my expertise, operation. I'm from sales and marketing. But I'm so happy that Bill from finance is here as well because he's going to add perspective, finance, and nuance. This way I don't fall victim to my blind spots. I'm so happy that they are here. And I evaluate different options before making the decision. So I really need to listen to each and all of them because they help elevate my thinking, adding nuance and perspective as solution-oriented advisors. On the back-end loan process, I'm so appreciative. Thank you, Bill, Julie, and the other folks. Thank you so much for having been such solution-oriented advisors. So I'm grateful, and I have an amazing feeling to have been truly empowered by my boss, by the organization, by my colleagues, the A's, and the I's that are staying out of the way. This is amazing. And therefore, it's a good feeling. I want to do more of it. Virtuous circle. Let's go to the next one, the advisors, the advice givers. Again, we are not in consensus mode here. We are getting into additional Aka sprints, but the D is a D. Let's say it's Mary. Mary has a blue hat this day. And then she invited me as a sales and marketing expert to help her. Yeah, fine. At the end of the day, I'm not in charge of the decision. I'm in charge of giving the best nuance and perspective and pros and cons analysis and risk mitigation for what is the name I use? Mary, I think. And that's it. But I need to remind myself I'm not in charge. Mary is. However, as I said, I'm really, really solution-oriented. And that means I need to understand the overall context. Yes, Edmund, I'm an advisor coming from sales and marketing. That's my expertise. But I need to force myself to listen and to think about it from the different perspective. This is the way I will be able to add more value to the decision Aka sprint discussion and help my colleague Mary make the best decision for the business. That's my mindset, bottom of the iceberg. As a result of this mindset, what do? I can explain the pros and cons as I see them from my vantage point, which is not necessarily the same as the other folks in the room. That's fine. And then I'm a team player. I explore with everybody else ways to mitigate the risks that should be mitigated. How do I feel as a result of that? I'm totally okay with the decision. Hold on. If I had the blue hat, I might not have made the decision that Mary made. But, first point, the organization has decided to empower Mary. So fine, let it go, Edmund. And secondly, and this ties back to the process highlighted, Mary did the 3-step process when we get into the ACA sprint. Mary has done a kick-ass job, outstanding job, facilitating the discussion. She paraphrased, she phrased it, played it back to us. I know she understood our perspective, and she made a decision. It's not the decision I would have made, but I know that's the best decision for the business. I'm fine with it. And I'm so glad to see the D being empowered in such a way. We moved along so much from our old-fashioned decision-making approach in our company when we were sluggish. As a result of it, we are grabbing market share from our competitors. We are winning the game. I'm so happy. Let's do it more. Let's do it more. Let's do it more. That is the virtual circle that I was talking about. And last one, inform stakeholders. First is I need to trust them, my colleagues, the D and the A's, as well as the process. Let it go. I don't need to be involved at this stage. They will inform me in due time. Maybe using the RASI model, back to Scott's question in the Q&A. So as a result of this thinking, so this time I have the green hat, I'm a I. What do? Well, I don't get involved. I don't try to sneak in. Can I come to the ACA sprint? No, I don't do that. I let them do it. Otherwise, I'm going to make it more complicated, slow down the process. Other important point, this is very important. So let me clean it up here because I really want to focus on this one. Let's say that I'm the boss of Marie. So Marie has been empowered. She has a blue hat. And I'm the boss. And she's going to make a decision. And the decision is going to come on my desk. And I have to rubber stamp it. That's the way things are going in the organization. You know what? I'm just going to rubber stamp it. Maybe I'm going to look at the decision and say, oh, interesting decision. I will not have necessarily have made that decision exactly, but I'm fine with it. The only exception is that if I see there was something that was completely missed and it's going to explode in our collective phase. In that case, I need to get into coaching mode and ask Marie to come to my office, maybe ask a few questions to see whether what I'm concerned about has been tackled, and maybe I'm worrying for nothing, but I will do that extremely rarely. Typically, I will just say, fine, I'm just rubber stamping the discussion, the decision Marie made without challenging it. And that will require me, if I'm an SVP, let's say, require me to change my mindset and to force myself to trust them. I've empowered Marie, trust her. So how do I feel out about all this stuff? As I? Well, first, I'm super busy. Before, in the sluggish way of decision making, we were having so many meetings. And anyway, all the decisions were on my desk. Everybody was escalating. I'm so happy because we are moving at pace. Some decisions are being made that are better than what I would have made because they have perspective and nuance I don't have an SVP. And we are kicking ass in the marketplace. I love it. And I'm so happy to see Marie and the likes of Marie being empowered in such a way. This is amazing because I see Marie and all the other folks out there growing as a result of this empowerment that we are doing and the process we use to make sure we come up with right decisions. I'll stop here. We are getting close to the last step here. To see to the wrap up. Let's see what type of questions you have. So this question more specifically about mindset and behaviors. While we wait for the questions to come, there is one question from Alexandru that I didn't address. I didn't see it. Sorry for that, Alexandru. How select, appoint a D in a matrix organization? Yeah, that's a good question. So typically, as you start to play with D, the decision will come up. They will be pretty high in the hierarchy. And this is a discussion that has to happen at this level. So if it's a matrix environment, let's say it's something that touch between operations and sales and marketing, let's say. So maybe the leader of sales and marketing, the leader of operations will get together, say, okay, we have to make that decision. We have to decide when is it we launch the product. You know what? Let's not make the mistake we made in the past, where we made the decision, you and I. Let's empower it. Who do you think should have the D on that? And it's a decision itself. They have to decide, and they have to land somewhere. So that's how typically it will be happening. Let's see what we have, if anything, in terms of mindsets and behaviors. Ron, I don't see anything yet in terms of questions about mindset and behaviors. Just let me know if I missed anything because I'm not looking on the right spot.
Sure.
Oh, I see one in the Q&A actually. It's from Sushant. Can I challenge the D if there is contradiction? That's a very good question. So it depends who you are. If you are with a D in the decision like a sprint, so I'm an advisor here. Yes, you can challenge because it's part of feeding the process. Saying, hold on, have you thought about that, Mary, for example? That is fine. That if you are I, as I said in the slide you can see here on the screen, and it ties back to this point here that I'm highlighting here in red. Avoid to do it. You might say, hey, have you thought about that? That's okay. It's not a challenge. It's a question. There is a difference between a challenge and a question. Oh, I'm just curious. Have you thought about that? And see what they say. And most likely, because they will have had the D will have had the right A's in the Hacka sprints, they will have done the right research. Most likely, you will be put at ease. But if you get into the habit of always challenging a decision, then maybe you are still stuck in the previous way of, I'm not talking about you, somebody that is doing that all the time, they may be still stuck in the consensus kind of decision making. Let's see if we have some Q&A now. Okay. So let me just look at them first to see which I can address first. Okay, that ID. How do all know their role? Should I show them the table in the presentation? Ah, very, very important point. Yes, and actually, I'll talk about that in the last few minutes that we have left. Yeah, the idea, you can share this content. The idea is to start small with a few smaller decisions and play with it a little bit. But then, yeah, you need to brief people. This is your role. You are the A on this this decision, and this is what that means. So the slide I'm just showing here, we design it to be able to, for the D to share it. So this way, understand what mindsets and behavior need to bring to the table. So yes, that's the idea. Let's wrap it up. Otherwise, I know everybody is busy. Otherwise, we'll get out of the timeline here for the session. So let me wrap it up. So we covered all the piece. Time to wrap it up. So two things. So this is, where can you go from here? Which is a good segue from the question you just posted. So this is based on what we typically do with clients. It's what we do with clients is that we build up their nimble change capabilities and we embed the AI into the corporate culture. And how do you do that? It's similar to what happened with a baby. A baby starts by scrolling. So what you need to do first is that start with a few decisions. So let's say over the next couple of months, we are going to play with the AI by making decisions, 5 decisions, let's say, it's a good number, using the AI. And we'll start slow. We'll go slow. We'll play with it. We are starting to get more comfortable with the concept. And it's a good idea to have a facilitator. So it can be somebody that is an internal facilitator that is helping this facilitate the process I explained to you before. And don't try to do too big decisions. So if you have an acquisition that you are thinking about, you want to buy a business, that's too big of a decision. Don't play with the AI on this kind of decision initially. Take something smaller. Important decision, meaningful decision, but something relatively smaller, not make or break the business, basically. And this is going to get people more comfortable with the different hats, more comfortable with the process, more comfortable with the mindset and behaviors. And we are going to learn a lot from it. And then as a baby, you can start to accelerate a little bit. The baby is standing up and start to walk. So it's easy initially, they might fall, but they come back and now they can start to walk. So you keep basically going. So this is why it's a good idea to have the initial facilitator that is working with other folks that know how to facilitate. And you basically say, hey guys, we play with it in the first phase. Let's scale it up here. If you have a decision to make, call us. And we are going to help you as internal facilitators go through the process the same way we went in the initial decision. And after a few months, magic happened, like with a baby. They are going to start to accelerate, first walking fast, up, and then starting to run, when eventually they run. So this is when decision ACA sprints are becoming self-facilitated. You don't even think about it. A decision is to make, okay, what's the D on that? Okay, good. Let's get going. Let's organize like a sprint, blah, 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 and just do it without even thinking. This is when it's been completely embedded in the corporate culture. So that's the process that I encourage you to use if you want to get going with the DAI. The last thing, it's a culture shift that you're going to do from a decision-making standpoint. And in culture shift, I mean, that's one of our specialty for Shango. What is important is to unleash the power of what we call culture shaping question. And if there is one question you really need to leverage and ask all the time, as soon as the decision is put on the table, we have to decide when to launch the product. Okay, fine. Who has the D on this one? And this is going to say, oh, yeah, the D. That's right. Okay, what's the D? And this is how you are going to get people to start to embrace the AI. Keep unleashing the power of this question. We've worked last year with a pharma company, and one of the executive SVP in the oncology business, she embraced that question, and she was amazing. Every time there was a question, she was asking, oh, what's the D on that? And this got people to really, really embrace the AI faster. That's it for me. That's what I wanted to share with you. What do we have any other questions? Let's look at the Q&A thing here. So sorry, I'm going to the bottom. How would you handle smaller teams, 3 or 4 people, with a DAI approach? Oh, that's interesting. So if you have very small team like that, just make sure, just use it, but in a very light way. So in other words, there won't be really any eyes, but make sure that somebody takes the D and play. So if you have the D, so who is asking the question? Jennifer. If Jennifer, you have your 2 colleagues and you. If you have the D, say, okay, I'm going to act as a D. My 2 colleagues think and act as a, and you start to play with it. And as you grow as a business, you'll be already 1 step ahead of your competitors because you will have already started to play with the AI and embrace it. Next decision, it might be someone else that has the blue hat. Fine, Jennifer, you take the other hat. You can still play with it, but don't go as complicated in terms of the process. Use the process in a light version. Will we be able to get a copy of the slide? So Ron, I think we have first the recording. It will be available, correct? And I'm comfortable sharing a PDF. So I'll send you a PDF that then you can share with audience. Is it okay with you?
Sure, absolutely. So anyone who would like to get a copy of the presentation, just send me an email. Anyway, we don't have much time, but I know there's a lot of questions. The presentation is very interactive, and we learned a lot of things for today's session. If you have any questions and if you would like to reach out to the speaker, the information is actually on the screen right now. And if you fail to get the information, just send me an email. I will definitely connect you to him in the next few days. So before we end the session, I would like to get final words from Edmund before we end the session.
Yeah, so first, thank you. You've been a wonderful audience, everybody. Your questions were making it way easier for me. And the last word is Play with it, try it, see where it goes, and be nimble in your decision making. Good luck with it.
Thank you. Thank you. And just a reminder again, we will have free upcoming online certificate workshop, and all the participants will receive a complimentary certificate of attendance. And once again, if you are not yet a member of International Trade Council, we will be sending you an invite link to be a member. It's free of charge, and you will receive it in the next 7 days. Again, thank you so much for attending today's workshop. We appreciate your time, and we look forward seeing you again in the next educational session. Thank you for your time, guys, and thank you, Edmond, for this very interactive presentation. You guys have
Thank
a
you
good
for the
day.
invitation,
Bye.
Ron. Thank you. Bye.